I never thought I'd be the kind of person to tell a story like this. I've always been practical, logical, the type to dismiss other people's true crime confessions with a shake of my head. That would never happen to me, I used to think. That happens to people who aren't careful, who ignore the signs. But I was careful. I did notice the signs, and still I almost didn't make it out alive. It began the day I moved into the little duplex on the edge of town. Rent was cheap, almost suspiciously cheap, but I was desperate. My last apartment had been a roach-infested nightmare, and the thought of a standalone place, even if it was older and creaked in the wind, was like a dream. The landlord was an old man who didn't ask many questions, just wanted first and last month's rent and warned me not to bother the neighbor in the other unit. He keeps to himself, the landlord said with a wave of his hand. Quiet type. Works odd hours, that was fine by me. I didn't move there to make friends. My neighbor's half of the duplex looked different. The curtains were always drawn tight, the lawn unkempt, a faint smell of mildew clinging to the siding. Where my side had a warm porch light that flicked on automatically at dusk, his was perpetually dark. I didn't see him the first few days, not even once. Though I heard movement through the shared wall at strange hours, dragging noises, the dull thump of something heavy being shifted. I told myself it was just an old house settling. But on the fourth night, I smelled it. It was a rancid odor that seemed to seep through the vents, metallic, sour, like spoiled meat left in the sun. I gagged, shoved towels against the base of the vent, lit every candle I owned. But the stink was so powerful it embedded in my clothes, my sheets, my skin. That was when I decided I needed to see the neighbor. I caught him by accident. It was just after midnight. I'd gone outside to take the trash, grumbling at myself for forgetting until the last possible second, when I saw movement in his yard. He was standing near the side of his house, half hidden by shadow, hauling something toward the bulkhead doors that led down into a basement. I froze, the plastic trash bag dangling from my hand. He was tall, rail-thin, and his movements were jerky, almost insect-like, as though his body wasn't fully under his control. What chilled me wasn't his appearance. It was what he was dragging. A large plastic sheet, the kind you'd buy at a hardware store. Something heavy was wrapped inside. Too heavy for one man to move with ease. As he tugged it down the steps, the corner of the sheet slipped, and for a split second, pale flesh caught the moonlight. An arm. I dropped the bag. The sound made him snap his head toward me. His eyes locked onto mine. Even across the dark lawn, I saw how empty they were. Flat, expressionless, like looking into the eyes of a mannequin. For what felt like forever, neither of us moved. Then slowly he raised one finger to his lips. Shh. I ran inside without a word. The next morning, everything looked different. The smell was still there, worse than ever, but in the sunlight, my fear felt ridiculous. People move strange things at night all the time, don't they? Old furniture, trash, maybe even hunting equipment. Maybe it wasn't an arm I saw. Maybe it was just the curve of some mannequin, or a Halloween prop. I kept replaying it in my head, convincing myself I was wrong. But that night, I heard something that shattered my fragile rationalization. From the vent in the wall, faint but unmistakable, came a voice. Please, help me. It was muffled, desperate, choked with sobs. I pressed my ear closer and my skin prickled with goosebumps. The voice wasn't my imagination. It was real, and it was coming from the basement next door. The next day, I forced myself to be rational again. I told myself maybe it was a TV. Maybe the neighbor liked to watch disturbing movies late at night. But when I went outside, I noticed something I hadn't before. The basement bulkhead doors had been padlocked shut from the outside. Who locks a basement from the outside unless they're keeping something in? I couldn't take it anymore. I called the non-emergency police line, explained the smell, the noises, the strange sight in the middle of the night. The dispatcher sounded bored, promised to send someone by when they could. No one came. Days passed. The stench worsened. The cries through the vent grew weaker. Sometimes it was incoherent sobbing, sometimes hoarse begging. Water. Please, don't leave me. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I started leaving the TV on constantly just to drown out the sounds. Finally, I decided to take matters into my own hands. It was storming that night, rain hammering the roof, thunder rattling the windows. I told myself it was the perfect cover. If he was home, maybe he wouldn't hear me. At 2 a.m., I slipped outside with a flashlight and a hammer. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the handle as I crept across the wet grass to the bulkhead doors. The padlock was old, rusted. It took only 3 hits to snap it open. I lifted the doors, and the stench that poured out was so overwhelming I vomited instantly. When I could breathe again, I aimed the flashlight down the steps. The beam cut across a concrete stairwell slick with damp. At the bottom was a door. It wasn't just a door. It was reinforced with a metal plate, bolts driven into the frame. But the wood around the edges was rotted. I could hear something faint on the other side. A whimper. I crept down the stairs, each step groaning under my weight. My pulse thundered in my ears. As I reached the bottom, I pressed my ear against the door. Someone was inside. Someone alive. I lifted the hammer, ready to smash the lock, when I heard footsteps above me. He knew. He knew I was there. The basement light flicked on, flooding the stairwell. Slowly, the door at the top of the stairs creaked open. My neighbor stood there, silhouetted in the glow, his head tilted at an unnatural angle, eyes wide and glinting with a kind of feverish excitement. In his hands, he held something long and sharp. "I told you," he said softly. "Don't bother me." I bolted up the stairs, shoving past him, nearly slipping on the wet grass as I sprinted back to my door. Behind me, he didn't chase. He just stood at the top of the stairs watching, smiling. The police didn't believe me. They came the next morning after I called 911, furious, shaking, half hysterical. But when they searched the basement, it was empty. No bodies, no victims, just bare cement floors, damp walls, and the faint smell of bleach. They treated me like I was crazy. I moved out within the week. I didn't care about breaking the lease, didn't care about the money I lost. I just needed to be gone. But sometimes late at night, I swear I still hear it. That weak, broken voice through the vent. "Please, help me." And I wonder if I left someone down there to die. Or if the real trap was that he wanted me to hear it all along. Because even now, even far from that place, I wake up at night with that same stench in my nostrils. The same emptiness in those mannequin eyes burned into my memory. And deep down, I know the truth I've been too afraid to say out loud. He knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted me to hear, to see, to break in. And the most horrifying part, I think I was supposed to be next. It started with something so small, so painfully ordinary, that if you told me that night would end with me sprinting barefoot through the dark woods to save my own life, I would have laughed in your face. But that's how these things happen. They creep in slowly, quietly, disguised as nothing worth worrying about until it's far too late to turn back. I had just gotten back from a weekend trip visiting my sister in another state. It wasn't anything special, just 2 days of catching up and helping her set up some new furniture. I left her place around 4 p.m., planning to make the 5-hour drive back home before midnight. It was early autumn, the kind of cool, crisp evening where the sun goes down early and the air smells faintly of wet leaves. The drive was uneventful for the first couple of hours. Empty highways, soft music humming through the speakers, my thermos of coffee within arm's reach. But then, about halfway into the trip, I noticed a car in my rearview mirror. It was a dull silver sedan, the kind of car you'd never think twice about. And at first I didn't. Cars travel behind you all the time. But this one felt different. It had been behind me for over 30 minutes now, never trying to pass, never falling back far enough to disappear. Even when I switched lanes to get around a slower driver, the sedan mirrored me perfectly. I told myself it was a coincidence. People drive the same route all the time. Still, I couldn't ignore the uncomfortable weight building in my stomach. By the time I exited the interstate to cut through a quieter stretch of county highway, the silver car exited too. That was my first real red flag. There were a dozen other exits he could have taken before this one. Now the road had narrowed. 2 lanes, tree-lined on either side. The kind of rural darkness where even the stars seem hesitant to shine. I watched the car's headlights shrink and grow in my mirror with every curve. "Relax," I muttered aloud, forcing a shaky laugh. "You're just being paranoid." But then, when I slowed down to just under the speed limit, so did they. When I sped up, they matched me. It wasn't even subtle. Whoever they were paying attention. At that point, my heart was beating too fast to ignore it. I decided to test them. I turned down a random side road, a narrow dirt lane I'd never driven before. If they kept going straight, I'd feel stupid but relieved. But the moment I made that turn, the silver sedan followed without hesitation. That's when the fear started to feel real. I pressed harder on the gas. The dirt road was uneven and bumpy, branches clawing at the sides of my car as I tore down it, praying it would lead to a main road or a gas station. It didn't. It ended at a dead end, a rusted-out gate and a long-abandoned farm field beyond it. "Shit," I hissed, whipping the car around. My headlights caught a glimpse of the sedan just as it slowed to a crawl behind me. It didn't stop. It didn't try to block me. It just inched closer like a predator circling. I floored it back the way I came, tires spitting gravel. The sedan followed, still behind me but never close enough to hit. Just there. Always there. For another 20 minutes, they stayed on my tail. I passed 2 gas stations and a diner, but they were all closed. Dark, empty shells in the middle of nowhere. My phone had no service. My mind was racing with half-formed plans. Maybe I could pull over suddenly and try to reverse back around them. Maybe I could swerve into a ditch and run into the trees. None of them felt safe. Finally, I saw a faded green sign up ahead. Creston, 12 miles. A town. If I could just make it there, I'd be okay. Streetlights, people, cell service, safety. I clung to that thought like a lifeline and pressed the accelerator harder. But then something happened that made my blood run cold. The sedan suddenly sped up fast, too fast. Within seconds, it was right behind me, its headlights flooding my mirrors. And then it hit me. Just a bump at first. Then again, harder. My whole car jolted forward. I screamed and clutched the wheel, trying to steady it. They were ramming me. I swerved, tires screeching as I fought to keep control. They hit me again, this time harder than before. It was deliberate. I could see the driver's silhouette now. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face swallowed in shadow. He wasn't trying to scare me anymore. He was trying to stop me. Come on," I whispered, the town sign still a distant blur ahead. The next few minutes were chaos. They kept ramming my bumper, trying to spin me out. I was crying now, my vision blurring as I focused on the road. My only thought was, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, and then I saw it. A set of headlights coming from the opposite direction. Another car. Hope surged in my chest. I flashed my high beams over and over, leaning on my horn. The driver slowed as we approached each other. But before I could even wave them down, the sedan swerved into the opposite lane and roared past me. Just like that, they were gone. I didn't stop driving until I reached Creston. I pulled into a gas station parking lot, shaking so badly I could barely get my keys out of the ignition. I called 911, and when the dispatcher asked for my location, I broke down crying. A police officer met me there within 15 minutes. He was kind, calm, asked me to describe the car, the driver, everything. They searched the highway and surrounding roads for hours, but they never found anyone matching that description. It was like the car had vanished into thin air. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that I moved on and chalked it up to a random, terrifying encounter. But 2 nights later, I realized it wasn't over. It was around midnight. I was home, trying to sleep, though every noise outside made my heart jump. At some point, I must have dozed off because I woke to a sound. A click, faint and metallic, coming from somewhere outside. I held my breath, straining to listen. Another click. This time closer, like someone was testing a lock. I crept out of bed and tiptoed to the window, pulling back the curtain just a sliver. My heart nearly stopped. Parked across the street, half hidden beneath a tree, was a dull silver sedan. The same one. I knew it. I dropped the curtain and backed away from the window. I didn't even think. I grabbed my phone and called 911 again. The dispatcher told me officers were on the way to stay inside and lock all doors. But 5 minutes later, the car was gone, no tracks. No noise, nothing. They patrolled the neighborhood for an hour but found nothing suspicious. And yet 2 nights later it happened again. Same time, same car. Parked across the street, watching. For weeks it was the same pattern. Some nights I wouldn't see it. Other nights it would appear for just long enough to remind me that whoever was behind the wheel knew where I lived. I started sleeping in the living room with the lights on. I stopped leaving my house after dark. I even installed security cameras. But every time the car showed up, it stayed just far enough away to avoid being captured clearly. Then one night, it escalated. I'd fallen asleep on the couch with the TV still playing. It must have been around 3 a.m. when I woke to the faint sound of gravel crunching outside. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and slowly lifted the curtain. The sedan wasn't across the street this time. It was in my driveway. Before I could even react, I heard it. A slow, deliberate knock on my front door. Not loud, Not urgent, just patient. I froze, every muscle in my body locked. Another knock. 3 times, evenly spaced, then silence. I called 911 again, whispering into the phone. The dispatcher told me officers were en route. I sat there shaking, staring at the door. After what felt like hours but was probably just 5 minutes, I heard footsteps on the gravel. A car door opening, the engine turning over. By the time police arrived, the driveway was empty. They suggested I stay with a friend for a while, and I did. I even filed a report and installed even more cameras, but they never found anything. No fingerprints, no tire tracks, nothing. Whoever it was, and they were careful, it's been 6 months now. I moved to a new apartment in another city. I changed my phone number. I even sold my car and bought a different one. For a while, I felt safe again, like maybe whoever was behind that silver sedan had finally moved on. But last night, I got home late from work. It was just past midnight. As I turned onto my street, my headlights swept over a row of parked cars. And there, tucked between 2 SUVs, was a dull silver sedan. I don't know how they found me again. I don't know what they want. But I know one thing, they're not done with me. And deep down, I'm starting to believe they never will be. Because every night since then, when the world outside is silent and still, I hear that same sound echoing in my head, the soft, patient knock on my front door. And I know that one night, whether it's tomorrow or 10 years from now, I'm going to have to open it. And when I do, I'm terrified of who or what will be standing on the other side. I don't know where to even begin with this story because even now, months later, I'm still not sure how much of it was real and how much of it was just my mind trying to protect me from what really happened. But I do know one thing. I've never been more terrified in my life, and I will never look at my home or the people around me the same way again. This all started about 8 months ago, just after I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of town. It wasn't anything special, just a modest older building with thin walls and creaky floors, but it was cheap and close to work. The neighbors mostly kept to themselves, which suited me fine. After a bad breakup and a rough patch in my life, I was honestly just looking forward to some peace and solitude. And for the first few weeks, that's exactly what I got. My days were predictable. Work, gym, groceries, sleep, rinse and repeat. I didn't know anyone in the building apart from brief elevator nods and polite smiles. That changed about a month in when I started noticing her. She was always there, always watching. The first time I saw her, it was late, maybe 11 p.m., and I was taking the trash out. At the end of the hall near the stairwell, a woman was standing perfectly still facing my apartment. I couldn't see her face clearly, just the outline of her long dark hair and pale skin. She didn't say anything, didn't move. Just watched me as I dropped the trash bag into the bin and walked back inside. I brushed it off. Maybe she was waiting for someone. Maybe she was just lost in thought. But a few nights later, I saw her again. Same place, same time, same unblinking stare. After that, I started noticing little things around the apartment that made me feel unsettled. My doormat would be slightly crooked even though I never touched it. My mail, which had always been neatly stuffed into my box, would sometimes be sticking halfway out, as if someone had pulled it out and then shoved it back in. One night I came home from work and found that my door wasn't fully locked. It looked closed, but when I turned the handle, it swung open easily. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Breakups mess with your head. Stress messes with your perception. I needed to calm down. But then one night something happened that I couldn't explain away. It was a Wednesday. I'd just gotten home from a late shift and was microwaving leftovers when I heard a soft click from the hallway, like someone turning a doorknob. At first I thought maybe it was a neighbor, but then I heard it again. This time it was followed by the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps just outside my door. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. The footsteps stopped. Silence. And then came the scratching. It was faint but unmistakable. The sound of nails or something sharp dragging along the wood of my door. Back and forth, back and forth. I stood there, heart hammering, too terrified to even breathe. It lasted for maybe 30 seconds. Then as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The hallway went silent again. I crept to the peephole, pressing my eye to the tiny glass circle. She was there. The woman from the hallway, standing inches from my door, her head tilted slightly to the side, her eyes staring directly into the peephole as if she knew I was watching. Her lips were curved into the faintest smile. I stumbled back, gasping. By the time I found the courage to look again, she was gone. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up in bed with every light on, clutching a kitchen knife, waiting for the sound of footsteps or scratching to return. They didn't, but something inside me changed. I knew I wasn't safe there anymore. The next morning, I reported it to the building manager. He listened politely but seemed skeptical. "We haven't had any complaints about anyone suspicious," he said. "Are you sure it wasn't a neighbor just messing around?" I left his office furious and frustrated. Maybe I was overreacting, but the fear felt real. Too real. A few days passed without incident, and I started to convince myself that maybe it really was nothing. Until one night, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. It was a notification from the security camera I'd installed in the hallway just outside my door, a cheap little thing I'd ordered online after the scratching. Incident motion detected, 2:47 a.m. I unlocked the app, and my blood ran cold. The footage showed the hallway, empty and still until a figure stepped into view. It was the woman. She walked up to my door, leaned in close, and pressed her ear against it. Then slowly, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something metallic. It was a key. She tried it once, then again, and again. Each time the lock held. She stepped back, staring at the door for a long moment, then turned and walked away. I called the police immediately. They came, took a statement, and said they'd patrol the area more frequently. But without proof of a crime, there wasn't much they could do. I considered breaking my lease and moving, but I couldn't afford it. I decided I'd just keep the cameras rolling, stay vigilant, and hope it was over. It wasn't. About 2 weeks later, I came home from work to find something taped to my door. It was a photo printed on cheap, glossy paper. It was me, sleeping. The angle was from inside my apartment. I don't remember unlocking the door. I don't remember dropping my bag or screaming. I just remember running out of the building, down the street, into the nearest gas station where I called the police again. This time they took it seriously. They dusted for prints, interviewed tenants, even brought in a detective. But whoever had taken that photo had left no trace. I stayed with a friend for a few weeks while I tried to figure out what to do next. And for a while, things seemed quiet. No more sightings. No more scratching. No more photos. I finally worked up the nerve to go back to the apartment, to pack up my stuff. That's when I found the hatch. It was hidden, behind a loose ceiling tile in the closet, a narrow opening, leading to the crawl space between floors. I'd lived there for nearly 3 months and had never noticed it before. I shone a flashlight into the darkness, expecting dust and insulation. Instead, I found a blanket, empty food wrappers, a small notebook, and a pair of photographs, and all of me. There were pictures of me sleeping, eating, watching TV, some from angles that could only have been taken from inside the apartment. The notebook was worse. Page after page of detailed notes. My schedule, my habits, what time I left for work, what time I got home, which nights I stayed up late, which nights I left my windows cracked open. I dropped it and stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. She hadn't just been watching me. She'd been living above me. The police came again. They combed through the crawl space but found nothing else. Whoever she was gone, along with whatever else she'd brought with her. They suspected she might have been accessing the space through another apartment or a maintenance hatch. I moved out the next day. I didn't care about breaking the lease or losing my deposit. I just wanted to get as far away from that building, from her, as I possibly could. It's been months now and I'm living in a new place in a different city. I installed multiple locks, cameras, even motion sensors. But sometimes late at night, I still hear it, that faint scratching sound against the door. And last week when I came home from work, there was something taped to my front door, a photo, me, sleeping. I don't know how she found me. I don't know how she keeps getting in. All I know is that somewhere out there she's still watching. And one night I know she's not just going to be standing in the hallway. She's going to be standing right over me, and I'm terrified that next time I won't wake up.